Warning. Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised. Imagine the power goes out. The ice seals your door shut. And you realize the cold isn't the only thing trying to get inside. The Appalachian peaks are a death trap when the mercury drops, and tonight we're heading deep into the frozen hollows. These three disturbing Appalachian Mountains horror stories are documented accounts from a group of friends in a remote cabin, a lone hotel clerk on the graveyard shift, and two young children trapped in a freezing trailer. They all looked into the winter dark, and they all saw something looking back. First, four friends holed up in a remote cabin during a record-breaking blizzard realize there's something moving just outside the glass, somewhere no human should be able to reach. Then, a lone hotel clerk working the graveyard shift during a state of emergency is cornered by a stranger who makes a request so unsettling it'll turn your blood to ice. Finally, during a brutal cold spell that cut off the world, two children discover that the most dangerous thing in the mountains isn't the storm. It's the person they're supposed to trust most. If you want to make it through the night, hit that subscribe button and like the video. It's the only way to keep the darkness at bay. Now let the nightmare begin. January 24th, 2016 is a date Justin will never forget. Winter storm. Jonas, the news anchors were calling it Snowzilla, had completely buried the state of North Carolina. Justin and his three best friends, Cody, Dalton, and Tyler, were holed up in a rental cabin outside Boone, sitting at an elevation of nearly 3,300 feet. Gusts of wind outside were clocking in at 50 miles per hour, slapping against the A-frame house like a heavy hand. Inside, things were loud. Buffalo wing sauce smeared paper plates and empty beer cans cluttered the coffee table. Central heat blasted warm air, fighting off the freeze from outside. It was the AFC Championship game. Patriots at Broncos. Brady versus Manning. This was the game everyone had been waiting for. Denver held the lead late in the fourth quarter. Tension in the room was thick. Every time the wind slammed the house, big glass windows flexed, distorting the reflection of the TV screen. 10 minutes remained on the clock when the cooler finally ran dry. Justin, knowing he was the host, groaned and stood up. "I'm making a run," he announced. "Nobody yell if we score while I'm gone." Kitchen air felt like a freezer compared to the living room. That massive sliding glass door let in a lot of cold. Justin tossed the cans into the recycling bin and glanced through the glass slider. Floodlights cut through the darkness, illuminating millions of snowflakes swirling violently. It looked like static on an old TV. He froze. Movement on the porch caught his eye. Heavy wooden chains creaked as the porch swing swayed back and forth. Wind was chaotic out there, whipping trees sideways. But that swing wasn't jerking around. It was moving in a perfect rhythmic arc. Forward, backward, forward, backward. It looked heavy, as if weight was pressing down on the slats, driving the momentum. Justin blinked hard. 3 hours of staring at a bright screen can mess with your vision. He told himself it was just a draft. Shaking his head, he grabbed 4 fresh drinks and headed back to the couch. He didn't say a word. You don't tell your friends you're scared of a porch swing during the playoffs. Sitting back down, he tried to focus. Brady dropped back, scanned the field, and launched a deep ball to Rob Gronkowski. It was a perfect spiral. Gronkowski leaped. Right as the ball touched his gloves, silence. Screens went black. A blue box popped up with white text. Searching for satellite signal. 771. "Are you serious?" Cody shouted. No. Dalton paced the rug. "Justin, fix it. We're going to miss the end." "It's the snow," Tyler said. "Dish is probably buried." Justin stared at the code. 771 meant the signal was blocked. Wet snow sticks to the receiver arm and kills the feed. "I'm on it," Justin said, grabbing a heavy-duty mag light from the drawer. "Dish is on the lower roof outside the kitchen window. I can reach it with a broom." He rushed back into the kitchen. Guys were still yelling in the other room. Justin unlocked the kitchen window and cranked it open. Freezing air punched him in the face. He clicked the mag light on and leaned out, shining the beam to the left where the satellite dish was bolted to the shingles. He expected to see a mound of white powder. He didn't see snow. He saw a sneaker. A gray canvas sneaker, frayed at the seams, hung over the edge of the gutter. It was dangling right in the beam of his flashlight. Justin felt his stomach drop. He followed the sneaker up to a leg, clad in dark, soaked denim. He panned the light up further. Someone was sitting on the roof. A man sat on the shingles right in the middle of a blizzard, legs crossed casually. He wore a thin, tattered gray hoodie that was soaked through. Snow had piled up on his shoulders. He had been there a long time. He wasn't shivering. Justin wanted to yell, but his body wouldn't move. He moved the light up to the stranger's face. That man was leaning forward, head tilted down. His skin was pale, almost like milk. He was staring directly into the light, directly at Justin. He didn't blink. He didn't squint against the LED beam. He just stared, expression completely blank. No anger, no fear. He just sat in the freezing gale, still as a statue, watching. "Justin, did you fix it?" Cody yelled. That voice broke the spell. Justin scrambled back, slamming the window shut and locking it. He backed away, breathing hard. "Guys!" Justin shouted. "Get in here! Now!" Panic in his voice brought them running. Dalton grabbed the heavy iron poker from the fireplace. "What is it?" Dalton asked. "There's a guy," Justin gasped, pointing at the window. "On the roof, right next to the dish." "What?" Cody looked at him like he was crazy. "In this weather? I'm telling you, look." Dalton didn't wait. He kicked the back door open. Wind roared into the kitchen. Dalton ran out onto the porch, looking up at the roof. "Hey!" Dalton screamed. "Get down from there!" Only the wind answered. Cody and Justin followed, shining flashlights up. Rooftop shingles were slick and wet, but they were empty. "Justin, man," Cody said, "you're seeing things. Stress of the game." "I swear," Justin stammered. Gray hoodie, sneakers, he was staring right at me. "Look at the roof," Cody said. "Wind is blowing 50 miles an hour. If someone was up there, they'd have slipped. And if they climbed down, we would see footprints." He shone his light on the snowbanks below. Snow was pristine, smooth, untouched. "Maybe the wind wiped the prints," Tyler suggested. "In 10 seconds?" Cody shook his head. "Let's get back inside." They went back in. Justin locked the door, checking the deadbolt twice. He felt insane. He knew what he saw. Detail of the frayed canvas on the sneaker was too real. Suddenly, the roar of the crowd erupted from the living room. "Touchdown! Gronkowski!" the announcer screamed. "It's 20-18. 12 seconds left." Signal had returned. The blue error box was gone. "See?" Cody slapped Justin on the back. "Signal's back. They scored. Come on, they have to go for 2 to tie it." Friends ran back to the couch, glued to the screen for the final play. Brady snapped the ball. He looked right. He threw. Intercepted. The Broncos' defense tipped it. Game over. Groans filled the room as the guys collapsed onto the couch, devastated by the loss. But Justin didn't sit down. He stood in the dark kitchen, looking out the sliding glass door. He watched the snow swirl. He tried to tell himself Cody was right. It was a trick of the light, a shadow. Then he heard it. Through the glass, over the sound of the wind, came a faint metallic squeak. Squeak! Squeak! Justin looked at the porch swing. It was moving again, not blowing in the wind, swinging back and forth, like someone was sitting there, invisible in the dark, gently kicking their feet, waiting for them to finally fall asleep. Winter storm. Pax hit Georgia like a sledgehammer on February 12, 2014. Locals called it the Ice-pocalypse. Blue Ridge was buried under 10 inches of snow, sealed shut by a thick layer of ice. Ashley was the night auditor at the mountain lodge. Usually her shift was simple: run the reports, drink coffee, and wait for the sun. But tonight was different. Fannin County was under a state of emergency. The roads were dead. The National Guard was deployed, but they were stuck miles away. Power had failed around midnight. A backup generator worked in the basement, feeding the dim emergency lights in the lobby. It was just Ashley, the empty lobby, and the wind rattling the glass. She was the only employee in the building. At 1:30 a.m., heavy boots crunched on the stairs. Ashley looked up from her paperwork. A man was walking down from the 3rd floor. He looked like a local, big, broad-shouldered, wearing a salt-stained Carhartt coat and muddy work boots. Strapped to his chest was a bright pink baby carrier. A small bundle was wrapped tight inside a blanket. He walked up to the high marble counter. He seemed calm, maybe a little tired. He dug a plastic key card out of his pocket and slid it across the surface. "Key's not working," he said. His voice was polite enough. Ashley took the card. "Sorry about that. The cold weather drains the battery in the locks. I'll recode it." She turned to the encoder machine. She typed in the command for room 304. It took 10 seconds. When she handed it back, he took it with a nod. He didn't say thank you. He just turned and walked back toward the dark hallway, patting the bundle on his chest. It was odd but not scary. Just a tired dad dealing with a storm. 45 minutes passed. The wind howled outside. At 2:15 a.m., the boots returned. Ashley sat up straight. Mac was back. He walked to the counter, still holding the baby close. He looked a little more confused this time. "It failed again," he said. "I can't get the green light." "I'm so sorry," Ashley said. "I'll try a master key this time. That usually works." She started typing. Mac leaned over the counter. He wasn't aggressive, but he was curious. He looked past her shoulder, staring directly at the heavy steel door of the back office. "Is that where you hide?" he asked. Ashley paused, her fingers hovering over the keys. "Excuse me?" "When the lights go out," Max said, his voice casual. "Is that where you go at night?" "That's just the audit office, sir." She handed him the master key. He took it. Again, no thank you. He just stared at the office door for one more second, then turned and walked away. Ashley watched him go. That question sat heavy in the air. It was a weird thing to ask. At 3 a.m., he came back for the 3rd time. Ashley heard him before she saw him. He was muttering to the bundle on his chest. It's okay, we'll get in. Don't worry." He sounded upset. He walked up to the desk, looking stressed. He placed his hands on the marble. "It won't open," he said. "She's getting cold." "I don't understand," Ashley said. "That was the master key. Let me come up and—" Mac reached over the counter. He didn't grab the logbook. He grabbed her wrist. It wasn't a strike, it was a squeeze. He held her arm firm, pulling her slightly toward him. "I need you to hold my baby," he said. "My hands are shaking. She likes you. I can tell." "Sir, I can't," Ashley said, trying to pull back. "Please let go." "I insist," Mac said. His eyes were wide and desperate. "Just for a second." He unclipped the carrier with one hand and shoved the bundle toward her. Ashley had no choice. She took it to make him let go of her wrist. The bundle settled into her arms. It was light, stiff. Ashley looked down. The blanket slipped away. Staring up at her was the hard plastic face of a baby alive doll. The rubber skin was cracked around the mouth. One eye was stuck open, staring at the ceiling. The other eye was twitching, blinking in a broken rhythm. Inside the chest, a motor made a grinding noise as it tried to move the plastic face. It was a toy. A broken toy. Ashley looked up. Mac was watching her, waiting for approval. He truly believed this was a child. If she screamed, if she threw it, he might snap. Ashley took a breath. She forced a customer service smile onto her face. She rocked the bundle gently. There, she said softly. "It's going to be okay." Mac's shoulders dropped. He looked relieved. "She is a beautiful baby, Mac," Ashley said. She kept her voice even. "You are such a great father. I can see how much you love her." Mac nodded, his eyes tearing up slightly. "I try. I really try." "I think she's ready to go back to her dad now," Ashley said. "Here you go." She gently handed the plastic doll back to him. Mac took it with both hands, cradling it like it was porcelain. "You're a great father," she repeated. "Try the key one more time. I think it will work now." "Okay," Mac whispered. "Okay, she likes you. Thank you." He turned around. He walked slowly toward the seating area in the lobby, whispering to the doll that everything was going to be all right. Ashley didn't wait. The second he was 10 feet away, she moved. She didn't run because that might trigger him. She walked quickly to the night auditor's office. She slipped inside, closed the heavy steel fire door, and threw the deadbolt. Clack! She collapsed against the door, her heart hammering against her ribs. She crawled to the desk and grabbed the emergency landline. She dialed 911. 911, what is your emergency? "I'm at the lodge," she whispered. "There is a guest having a mental health crisis. He thinks a doll is real. I'm locked in the office." "Ma'am, we are in a code red weather event," the dispatcher said. "We cannot get a unit to you until the plows clear the ice." "When will that be?" "Morning, just stay inside, lock the door." Ashley hung up. She turned to the security monitor. Mac hadn't gone to his room. He had pulled a chair into the center of the lobby. He sat down facing the office door. He placed the doll on his knee. For the next 4 hours, Ashley watched the screen. Mac didn't move. He didn't look at his phone. He just sat there, staring at the handle of the office door, waiting for her to come back out. The doll sat on his knee, its broken eye staring into nothing. At 7 a.m., the sun began to rise. Gray light filtered into the lobby. On the screen, Max stood up. He adjusted his coat. He strapped the doll back into the carrier. He looked at the office door one last time, then turned and walked out the front sliding doors. Ashley watched him disappear into the snow. At 7:45 a.m., Brenda, the general manager, finally slid her SUV into the parking lot. Ashley unlocked the office door and stumbled out. She told Brenda everything. They checked the system. Mac had checked in with a valid ID and paid cash. They went up to room 304. The door was open. The bed was made. The towels were folded. The only sign anyone had been there was the key card, left neatly on the bedside table. Mac had checked out. The police arrived hours later. They took a report, but there wasn't much they could do. He hadn't hurt her. He was just a confused man with a doll. They never found his car, and they never found him. To this day, Ashley doesn't work night shifts, and she never touches lost dolls. Because every time she sees one, she remembers the man who stood in the lobby, waiting for her to come out and hold his baby again. Freezing temperatures in Alabama don't happen often, but when they do, they break things. January of 1981 brought the great cold spell to the Talladega National Forest. It was 2 degrees outside. The humidity that usually hangs over the mountains had turned into a block of ice. Every 20 minutes or so, a sound like a gunshot would crack through the hollow, another pine branch snapping under the weight, giving up the ghost. Inside the rusting 1972 single-wide trailer, the temperature wasn't much better. The power had been dead for 6 hours. No phone, no neighbors for miles. Just the orange flicker of a kerosene heater and a few stubs of emergency candles burning low. Vernon sat at the laminate table. He was 7. Across from him sat his sister, Patsy. She was 9. Under the table, Patsy's foot gently tapped against Vernon's ankle. It was their secret code. Stay still. Don't move. They were used to the mood swings. They knew how to navigate Etta's storms the way sailors navigate rough seas. They knew when to hide, when to speak, and when to disappear. But as Vernon looked at his sister's wide, terrified eyes reflecting the candle flame, he realized something. They had weathered storms before, but tonight was a hurricane. Tonight would be the night they remembered forever. Etta paced the narrow strip of linoleum in the kitchen. Liver failure had turned her skin yellow, making her look like old parchment paper in the dim light. She hadn't seen a doctor in weeks. The only medicine she had was a case of warm old Milwaukee beer by the sink. She was muttering to a dark corner of the pantry, arguing with a shadow that wasn't there. I know what they need," she whispered to the empty air. "Don't tell me how to raise them." Vernon squeezed his hands together. He looked at Patsy again. Usually, she was the brave one. She was the one who stood in front of him when Etta got loud. But tonight, Patsy looked small. Etta stopped pacing. She grabbed a cast-iron skillet from the wood stove and shoveled dinner onto 3 chipped ceramic plates. Fish sticks. They were burnt black on the outside. She slammed the plates onto the table, the sound echoing like a hammer strike. "Eat," she said. Her voice was flat. Just a command. Vernon looked down. He poked the blackened fish stick with his fork. It was hard as a rock. He managed to saw a piece off and put it in his mouth. He bit down, and a crunch echoed in his head. The center was still frozen solid. It was raw, icy mush. He leaned over to Patsy, his voice barely a breath. "It tastes like metal," he whispered. "I think I'm going to be sick." That was the trigger. Etta stopped arguing with the shadow. She stood up with a speed that defied her sickness. Her chair screeched against the linoleum. She didn't yell. Instead, she leaned over the table, her yellow eyes locking onto Vernon. "If you don't want what I give you," she whispered, "then you don't want to live." Distance didn't matter. She lunged across the table. Her hand, cold and smelling of stale beer, clamped onto the back of Vernon's hair. She slammed his face down into the greasy plate. Vernon felt the squish of cold breading against his eyelid. He felt his lips split against the ceramic rim. The copper taste of blood filled his mouth. He couldn't breathe. Etta began screaming at the empty corner of the room. "I'm doing it! I'm showing him! Shut up and just watch! I'll make him eat it!" Vernon kicked out blindly under the table. His boot connected with his mother's shin. It wasn't a hard kick, but it was enough. She grunted, her grip loosening for a split second. Vernon wrenched his head free, leaving a patch of hair in her hand. He scrambled backward, falling out of his chair. He didn't look back. He bolted toward the hallway. As he ran, a sound cut through the air. He heard the kitchen drawer rattle. Then came the unmistakable shink of the rusted, serrated butcher knife being pulled loose. Vernon slipped on a patch of frost near the bathroom. He slammed his shoulder into the wall but kept moving. Behind him, he heard Etta's heavy, wheezing breath. Thwack. Something hit the wood paneling right behind his head. She was stumbling through the dark, swinging the knife blindly. Vernon dove into his bedroom and slammed the door. He fumbled with the knob. It was a cheap privacy lock, a tiny brass button. It clicked. He backed away, chest heaving, waiting for the doorknob to jiggle. But Etta didn't try the handle. Suddenly, a jagged silver point punched right through the hollow core wood of the door. It was inches from Vernon's face. Wood splinters exploded inward. Vernon scrambled onto his bed, pressing his back against the cold wall. He watched in the dark. The serrated blade sawed up and down, widening the hole. It sounded like a zipper being pulled violently. "He's ungrateful," Etta wailed to the invisible person. "Please, just be quiet while I finish the boy." The knife pulled back out. Then it plunged through again, lower this time. She was carving the door apart to get to him. Vernon held his breath. He wanted to scream for Patsy, but he knew that would just draw attention to her. Then the hacking stopped. Silence rushed back into the trailer. Vernon heard Etta's heavy footsteps retreating down the hallway toward the kitchen. Relief washed over him, but it was instantly replaced by a sick, sinking feeling. Then he heard the shatter of ceramic in the kitchen. And then Patsy screamed. It wasn't a scream of anger. It was a high, thin sound of pure terror. Vernon froze. His heart hammered against his ribs like a bird trapped in a cage. He realized with horror that the target had shifted. Patsy, who always protected him, was now alone in that kitchen. "Eat it!" Etta shrieked. Vernon pressed his ear against the thin, paper-like wall. He heard his sister gagging. He heard the wet, slapping sound of frozen food being forced against a closed mouth. "Please, Mommy, no!" Patsy begged. Her voice was muffled and wet. "I'll be good, I promise I'll be good." Vernon squeezed his eyes shut. Hot tears ran down his face. He loved his sister more than anything. She was the only person in the world who made him feel safe. He looked at the door. He should open it. He should run out there and tackle his mother. He should save her. But his legs wouldn't move. The fear was a physical weight, holding him down on the mattress. He hated himself in that moment. He hated his weakness. "Look at her," Etta yelled at her guest. "See? She's taking it. She's learning." Patsy's crying turned into a low, rhythmic sobbing, the kind that happens when you can't breathe. Vernon bit down on his own knuckle until he tasted blood, trying to block out the sound of his sister's pain. He was safe behind his locked door, and the guilt of that safety felt worse than the knife. Just as the noise reached a fever pitch, it stopped. The butcher knife hit the linoleum floor with a heavy thud. There was a pause, and then Etta collapsed. She let out a high-pitched wail of grief that sounded nothing like the monster holding the knife moments ago. "I'm sorry," she sobbed. Her voice cracked, small and broken. "I'm sorry, babies. Mommy's just tired. I'll make you something else." Vernon and Patsy survived the great cold spell of '81. The power came back on 3 days later, but the warmth never returned to that trailer. Patsy didn't stay long after that. The state finally stepped in about 8 months later when the bruises didn't hide well enough, and she was put into foster care to get away from Etta's torture. Vernon was left behind. Etta passed away in the '90s, a soul who never got the help she needed because of their isolation. Some scars don't show up on skin. They get etched into the walls where you used to feel safe. Even today, Vernon can't be in a room with a locked door without checking the wood. And when he hears a child cry, he feels the crushing weight of a door he was too afraid to open. It's a reminder that in those deep Appalachian hollows, the mountains are tall enough to block the sun, and the silence is thick enough to bury a scream forever.